He is zooming
I thought it was
in.
warm on the practice.
Nope. Okay, we are talking about chapter 6 today. Chapter 6 is all about segmentation, positioning within the market. This chapter presents an overview of how to group customers and how to select a meaningful group as a foundation to build on marketing strategy. This is done through segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Companies have to understand what different customers want and why they want those things. So it's going to be more of our segmentation. They have to choose specific groups of customers to focus on. That's our targeting. And then they have to differentiate their offerings from competitors' offerings. That's going to be our branding. We'll also talk about how to rebrand products and look at some companies that have very successfully rebranded things. And my computer's not working. In show. There we go. Okay. So those are our learning objectives. We're not gonna read those. We got a little video to watch though. This is what market segmentation is.
A century ago, a local general store owner would have known all of his customers personally. He would be familiar with their families, their businesses, where they lived, and how they spent their leisure time, and what they were interested in spending their hard-earned money on. This type of marketing is called one-to-one because the business was able to think and act in terms of individual consumers and their households. Although technology is making it easier for firms to gather information and learn what customers really want, few businesses can get to know all of their customers on an individual basis. Moreover, it's not always necessary to know individual customers, because in many markets, there's large groups of customers that are very similar. The purchase of ketchup is one example. Imagine that we were able to classify every individual Canadian based on what they want when they buy ketchup. Given unlimited resources, we could talk to each household and learn about their ideal version of the condiment. We could record their buying habits, conduct surveys, and facilitate focus groups. We might even spend time in the consumer's home, observing how, when, and why they use ketchup. Ultimately, the return on that investment is unlikely to justify such an in-depth market research study, simply because consumers' preferences are not that unique for many products. Some may want ketchup that's a little sweeter, a little spicier, produced by a particular brand, and so on. Based on a few key features of the product, such as price, quality, and brand name, we can create groups of Canadians that care about the same things and base their buying decisions on the same factors. Maybe we find that most people fall into one of three camps. For example, we might have segment A that's price sensitive and buys primarily on price. Segment B, we'll call them the tasters, buy primarily on taste. And a small segment C, organics, who only buy ketchup made from organic ingredients. We could dig deeper and develop a more fine-grained model of Canadians' ketchup preferences. For example, exactly how price-sensitive is segment A? What flavors really make a difference to segment B? And how much more is segment C willing to pay for organic ingredients? Ultimately, how far we break the market up into groups with distinct preference profiles depends on whether or not investment in more detailed segmentation schemes justifies that cost. As it turns out, the ketchup market tends to be mostly homogeneous. The vast majority of people prefer the taste of Heinz 57, and that preference drives their purchasing behavior. Good market segmentation means finding potentially profitable customers who prefer particular combinations of product attributes. Once a business knows what customers want in the products they buy, it can talk to manufacturers and wholesalers to see what products are available and how closely they match the needs of those individual segments. However, most businesses realize that having the right product at the right price is not enough. Modern consumers' needs and desires go well beyond the basic products they purchase. For example, many consumers want the sense of confidence that comes with buying familiar brands. They tend to prefer to shop in a comfortable and convenient environment. Some consumers may want to patronize only businesses that reflect their personal values through initiatives such as local community involvement or environmental and social responsibility. In other words, people do not just prefer certain products, they prefer an entire process of meeting their individual needs. The ability to understand those needs on a segment-by-segment basis is the foundation of successful marketing.
Okay. So what's market segmentation? So what are we doing when we segment the market? Yeah.
People based on like their preferences.
Yeah. We are categorizing our customers, right, into different groups. We can't market to everybody. It's too expensive, right? We can't market to every preference. We would spend lots and lots of money. Right? The example they use was if we could go door to door and talk to every consumer and see exactly how they use the product, that would be great. That would cost so much. It would cost lots of money, it would cost lots of time, and it's not really worth it, right? So we use market segmentation to categorize our groups of customers and divide our market into manageable chunks. Okay, that's what we're doing. Any differentiating factor could be used as a segmentation factor. So we, just like in the video, we could break things down by price, by value, by organic, by the kind of flavor it is, by the color of ketchup. Remember when, did any of you remember when ketchup used to be purple? There was like purple ketchup for like, it was like a weird thing. It wasn't like a normal thing. It was like some weird marketing thing. You'd get purple ketchup or like green ketchup or something. It was awful. It tasted so bad.
It didn't taste like regular ketchup.
It was supposed to, but something they did to it when they added the color, like the color into it, made it taste so horrible. But it was marketed to kids because it's like, hey, purple ketchup, put it on your French fry. You know, it was awful. It was so bad. My mom bought it once, and like my brother, who will literally put ketchup on almost anything, like just spit it out. So, yeah. But at one point in time, that was a market segment, like marketing to kids who could convince their parents to buy purple or green ketchup. Look it up at some time and look at it. It's nasty. So there are lots of ways we can break down our segment, but they primarily fall into 4 different categories, okay? So from the reading that you were supposed to do, who remembers our 4 different categories that we break segments down into? There are 4 ways we break it down. Yeah. One is behavioral. Josh.
One of the others psychological or something?
Yeah, psychographic. It's some weird, yeah. Yep, psychographic, behavioral, psychographic. How else are we going to break it down?
Environment.
Not environment. Geographic. There's one more.
Demographic.
So, we've got these 4 different things we can break people down into. A lot of times these can overlap, and we have to choose the combination of variables we want to be most effective. Okay. Oh, too far. So we're going to look at each of these. I'm going to do it really quickly here, and then we're going to break this down a little bit better in a minute. So with geographic variables, geographic obviously means where we are, right? So we could look at the type of city someone lives in. Do they live in a big city, a small town? Are they in the suburbs? Are they in a rural area? The population size. Is it a massive city like Chicago or LA? Or is it a mid-sized city like St. Louis or Indianapolis? Or is it just a little bit bigger, something like Effingham? Okay? So how many people, or the density of the population? Physical location. Do we want to market internationally? Do we want to just do one country? Do we want to do specific states? Are we in a region of the US. And then also we can mark it by climate. There are some things that we could sell in a tropical climate that might not work so great in Alaska, right? Where it's cold. And there are some things we could sell where it's cold all the time that might not work so great in, like, I don't know, Miami, right? So we can break things down in our geographic section. Demographic, we can look at age, the stage of family people are in. Are they single young adults? Is it a new couple? Is it a small family, a large family? Families that have multi-generations in them might need different things. We could break it down by gender, by education, religion, income, occupation. There's all kinds of ways we can do this. Psychographic basically falls into 2 or 3 different variables. So we could break things down by lifestyle or by personality. And then behavioral is all about how they use our product. Do they use it a lot? Not very often. What are the benefits they're looking for in the product? Are they loyal to a specific brand? There are some things that we buy that we are super brand loyal to. What is like a common everyday thing you use besides your phone where you only will buy one specific brand? Soap. What kind of soap? Dove. What else? Other electronics. I will only buy Dawn dish soap to clean my dishes, and I will only buy Jif peanut butter, mostly because that's the kind my daughter likes. Tried the other ones, we tried the off-brand ones, and she says it's quote unquote yucky. Okay, so there are certain things though, certain brands that I am loyal to. Usage rate, how often they use it, and buyer readiness, where they are in the buying process. Okay. We just talked about that. We're going to switch to psychographic segmentation. This is the kind of weird one. So psychographic segmentation is the one that we only can break it down on a couple of things. And psychographic segmentation probably is going to be the most difficult ones to figure out, okay? With demographic and geographic, that's pretty easy. We can get geography data really quickly. We usually do that like on Wikipedia. Just throw all this up there. But we can figure that out real fast. When would it make a lot of sense for us to segment a product, or what kind of product would it make sense to segment by geography? What are we going to segment with geography? Clothing. What did you say? Winter coats. What about umbrellas? What? Surfboards. Are surfboards going to sell a whole lot in Illinois? No, probably not. What about like ice melt that you put on the sidewalk? All right. Are you going to sell a whole lot of ice melt in Texas? Some places, maybe. Still, I think that's still more where you live. Should probably buy ice melt if it's snowy.
No, I'm saying like geographic, it's more of a lifestyle type thing.
For which one?
Just for the category.
Oh, I mean, it could be.
Because it just applies to wherever.
It applies to where you live, but it's still easy. It's like an easy way we can break things down, right? Demographic is super easy too to break down. A lot of this information is available. You just have to find it or pay for it. So for the most part, we know the general income of a given area, the general age of the given area, marital status, things like that. Religion, and most of this is just census data. Okay, so it's information that already exists. This is the most widely used approach, is demographic data. It's the easiest way to break things down. It's usually what marketers will go to first. So you might hear that they want to market to women between the ages of 18 and 40, right? Or men between the ages of or men that are over the age of 55, okay? So there are lots of different products, lots of different things we could use to segment things demographically. What's a product that we would use demographic segmentation for? What?
Canes.
Canes. Who are we gonna market canes to?
Elderly.
And the elderly. What about those bathtubs you can like walk into, right? And like close the little bathtub door.
Lift chairs. Those are cool.
Lift chairs, right? There's a whole market there for people who are above a certain age. What else could we use demographic segmentation for? Those bathtubs are cool.
Except that you gotta let it like drain before you can even get out.
Yeah,
They just get cold.
just sitting there.
That's
What else could we use this for? What about, it's not really listed up there, what about like family status, right? I am gonna see lots more commercials for kids' toys probably than you guys will, okay? In fact, yesterday there was like 5 toy commercials in a row on YouTube, and every single toy, my daughter was like, I want that, I want that, I want that. Okay, maybe. But I'm gonna see a lot more of those than a younger audience would. Because they're marketing, they don't market kids' toys to the kid, they market it to the parents. Okay? They're the ones with all the buying power there. So now we're back to our psychographic segmentation. So this is categorizing customers based on their lifestyle, their personality, or their values. Some key variables here would be like activities you like to do or your interests, opinions, social class, personality. So for example, identification of people with a particular attitude might be loving art, or people who are really concerned about the welfare of animals. We're gonna market things dealing with that to those people differently. There are 2 different frameworks that help measure lifestyle in psychographic segments, and those are the VALS framework and Myers-Briggs. VALS is based on behavioral and demographic attitudes. Sorry, it's a combination of behavioral, demographic, and attitudes. And then Myers-Briggs is a personality type indicator, which basically splits people into 4 different dichotomies. You can be one of 16 different personality types. I'm an ENFJ, which means I like people, and I'm really energetic. Yay. Right? But it splits people into different personality types. What are some things that we might want to use psychographic segmentation for? Thinking about lifestyle, personality, and values. Athletes, right? I'm not an athletic person. You try to market athletic type things to me, and it's probably not going to be as easy. But for some people, it's going to work. Yeah.
I'd say like cars and stuff, because some people obviously don't need drugs for like certain things, like all the stuff around.
Yeah.
Like, based off lifestyles.
Yeah. Cars. That's a great one. Anything else you guys can think of?
Regular 9 to 5. Person working job.
Yeah. Their lifestyle is going to be a little different than if you have a little more flexible work schedule. There's all kinds of things we can do there. Our last group is our behavior. So we have the psychographic segmentation that's based in how consumers think. Behavior is more how they're going to use our product, or based on what they're going to do. So we're looking at variables like, what are the benefits this person wants? How much do they use the product? Where are they at in the purchase process, the buyer readiness? Is there an occasion that they're buying for, and are they loyal to a brand? Okay. A lot of marketers feel that this is the best way to segment a market because customers are going to do what they've done before. There are some products that doesn't work on because they're like a once in a lifetime kind of purchase. But there are a lot of things we're going to do a little bit more what we've done before. Okay. Where would this work the best? Where's behavior segmentation going to work the best at? Phones, right? If we're thinking about what most people have bought before, how many of you have an iPhone? Okay, how many of you have Android? How many of you have something else? Okay, those of you who answered yes to the iPhone, how many iPhone users would ever buy an Android?
Never again.
Oh, that's what I say about Apple.
Never again.
Okay, Android users, how many of you are going to buy an Apple?
No, wrong.
We got like maybe one or two maybes in here, okay? So you're gonna do what you've done before. If you currently have an Apple, you're probably gonna buy another Apple, right? What's another place this would be, you could segment this on? Clothing, right? There is some clothing that you're gonna be brand loyal to. I have a brand of clothing that I am very loyal to. I will shop there like all the time. That's my favorite thing, right? Shoes especially, right? There are some people that are very brand loyal to specific shoe brands, okay? Let's think about the occasion one for just a second. How could we market for a specific occasion?
You mean like weddings?
Yes.
Stuff like that?
There's a whole industry right there that is worth billions of dollars. Okay. Sorry, buddy.
I want that pork back.
And a lot of times if you tag the word wedding onto something, or if say it's for a wedding, the price tag for it just jumps like way up. Okay. So we can segment those groups out. All right. So far we've talked about individual buyers, but you can also segment businesses into markets if you sell primarily to a business. So for example, if you were a restaurant that offered catering, you could consider how close businesses were to your restaurant, right? That'll give you some location data. For all practical purposes though, we would use the same segments except for psychographic segmentation. That doesn't really work when we're marketing just to a business. So we'd have demographic, we can do both. So for business, it would be how big the company is, what industry they're in. I left off part of the chart. Oops. Behavioral, how they plan to use the product, okay? But that psychographic one, the lifestyle and personality, usually doesn't matter to business marketing. All right. So there are several things we have to think about when we are segmenting different people into different markets. For the most part, companies will try to use the largest segment possible, right? Our largest segment is going to have the most potential customers in it. At the extreme, companies could consider each customer as a segment of one, but again, that gets into some really expensive marketing things that we don't really want to do. That would be called micro marketing though. So if you ever are working with a company that talks about micro marketing, it's possible, it's not practical, it's very expensive, okay? All right. We need to apply our segmentation. So there are 6 steps we can use to do that. The first 4 are up here, and we're not going to read through the whole entire thing. But we have to define our broad market. So what do our customers want, and what can we provide, okay? So we're looking at our overall big picture. So that might be, we take our demographics and we use that to segment our market out into something a little bigger. Then we're going to narrow that down. What combination of customers and products are we going to focus our marketing efforts on? We're looking for the biggest return on investment, okay? The biggest return on investment might not be the biggest segment. Why might that be true? Why might the biggest return on investment not be our biggest market segment? Any ideas? Okay, let's think about this a little differently. This side of the room, you guys, we're gonna go with the ketchup example because that's fun. This side of the room is only gonna pay $1 for ketchup. That's all you're ever gonna pay. You're just very price sensitive. You're not gonna pay more than $1. This side of the room though, is gonna pay like $6 for ketchup, right? Well, no, you can't switch sides. Are we gonna make more money on this side of the room or that side? This side. They're gonna pay more, right? It costs us the same amount to make it. We're gonna make more profit over here. So it might not always be the biggest return on investment to market to the biggest market. We have to figure that out.
But maybe we buy more often.
Or is this assuming that
We're
it's
just
like-
assuming it's the same exact product.
Oh, I think so.
If you guys are gonna buy it more often, then yes, right? That's where we need to know how often you're buying it, how much you're using it, right?
Also think about this, like it takes 6 people to buy that $1 one.
Yeah.
And one
So
person to buy
we
it.
still have to figure out what our return on investment is going to be. Because if you guys aren't going to use it as much, because it's a pricey, like expensive thing, right? There are some countries where ketchup is like a delicacy, almost. Okay. For example, we had a foreign exchange student that lived with us when I was in 8th grade. Her name was Lucy. She's from Thailand. Ketchup is a big thing there. It's like $10 a bottle. Okay. And when Lucy came to live with us, and we had like multiple, because my brother just loved ketchup so much, multiple like 64-ounce bottles of ketchup. She was like, oh my gosh, like her eyes got huge when she saw it. She couldn't believe that we paid that much for ketchup. And we're like, it's like $3. It's like not expensive at all. And she literally put it on everything, like to include like fettuccine, okay? We had to like stop her from putting it in like her cereal. Like she loved ketchup. Between her and my brother, we went through a 64-ounce bottle of ketchup in like 4 days. It was bad, okay? Some weird times. But it's because over there, it's a whole different thing. It's a different type of product there. All right. So we define our market, we narrow it down, and then we are going to select some specific things we want to segment on. So we might narrow it down probably a little bit more by that lifestyle or by how someone's going to use the product, okay? We select the variables we want within each category. A lot of us is doing the same thing, it feels like over and over again. We identify the categories within each of those different variables so we know what's most important to us. So if we've figured out that return on investment and we decide that our $6 ketchup people is who we're going to market to, then we're not going to worry about the $1 ketchup people. Okay, we're going to let someone else grab that market. And then we define the profile for each segment. So we describe all the combination of variables, what we're exactly looking for. So we might be looking for women 18 to 20 years old who want to pay at least $6 for our ketchup. There's no one over here in that market, right? It's probably not the best place for us to be. So we might readjust. But we figure out all these different variables and where it's going to be most profitable for us to operate. That's how we can successfully use segmentation. There are 5 different criteria to make segmentation effective. What we're looking at has to be identifiable and differentiable. That's a fun word. We have to be able to actually identify the criteria, right? Things that are easy to identify: age, gender, nationality, Usually that's census data. Where someone lives, usually easy to identify. Things that are harder to identify might include lifestyle. We don't know everything about every person, okay? We only know what they put into those specific things we're looking at. We want it to be measurable. We want this to be sustainable because we want to be able to use this over and over again. And then accessible and responsive, okay? So all these different marketing things that need to go into our marketing things, all these different variables that need to go into our marketing mix. All right. We can target our market. I'll let up there. So we decided with our ketchup example, we're going to target these $6 ketchup people, right? So this is our target market. This is who we're focusing our market efforts on. That doesn't mean we're never going to get someone from the $1 ketchup group. Maybe they're just really desperate for ketchup and they decide to buy a $6 bottle. But we're going to figure out our segments and rank them in order of how attractive that segment is for us. We can also exclude some segments if we have ethical and moral reasons, or if there's a ton of competition in that area. Okay, maybe the reason we're not going to focus on our $1 ketchup people is there's so much competition that we are not going to make any money anyway, right? Because if all you're worried about is price, you don't really care about brand or if it tastes a little bit better than the other one, we might have too many competitors over there. Then we'll take those remaining segments and prioritize them. All right. After we have our target market, we have to develop a positioning strategy. We're creating a specific perception in our customer's mind about our product or our brand or our company. A positioning statement is going to spell out the differences between what we do and what another company does, or what our product offers versus another product. How many phone commercials do you see where they're comparing what one phone has to what another one has, right? There's a lot of them. Even if it's just comparing their own products to each other, right? iPhone compares their own products to other ones. Samsung does a lot of saying, hey, we're better than Apple, right? Whether they are or not. That's up to you. But there's 4 elements for a positioning statement, okay? It has to have these 4 components. The first one is we. So you have to say the company or the brand or the unit that's offering the product. You have to have the offer to the target customer. Make sure the target customer is clearly identified in terms of important segmentation characteristics. The key benefit, what we're offering those customers that's better than every other company, and why it's better than or how we compare to our competition. Okay? Those are 4 things that have to be in a position statement to get some kind of result. So for an example, if you owned a local dry cleaning service, you might develop a positioning statement like Fast Service Cleaners offers local business people who need fast service the quickest return service for their laundry compared to any drop-off or delivery dry cleaning service in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Okay? It answers all of those, or has all of those different elements. We know who it is, who it's for, what the benefit is, and why it's better. Okay? We can also reposition. Sometimes we come up with these position statements or how we want to market our product or who we want to market to, and it stops working, or it's not as effective as we want it to be. So we can reposition our company or rebrand some things. This is supposed to create a different perception of the company in the consumer's mind. This can be really risky because you start to alienate, or you can alienate the consumers you already have by going after a different target market. And sometimes companies, instead of trying to reposition a product, will just create a whole new product or a different brand or rebrand it instead. But there are some companies that have done this really successfully. Okay, we're going to look at 4 companies that have done this and been very successful at it. I want to see if you can guess what any of them are. What are some companies that have done some major like changes in who they market to? McDonald's, okay, that's one of them we're gonna talk about. Amazon has, it's not on my list, but Amazon has. Who else? Who? Nope, I don't have them either. But yeah, they rebrand themselves all the time. Apple did it. Okay, at one point Apple almost went out of business. Taco Bell has done this. And the first one we're going to look at, the biggest success story in this, Old Spice.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat. A man, your man could smell it. What's in your head? Back at me. I am. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
Okay.
Did they do that in one shot?
I think
Hello,
they
ladies.
did.
Look at
Okay, I'm gonna go back to this for a second. All right, when this commercial came out, Old Spice was 70 years old as a company and primarily targeted their product to who? Old men, 70-year-old men. My grandpa uses Old Spice, okay? And he is 99. Yeah.
He wants to smell like it.
Who uses Old Spice now? My husband does, right? All of like, except for the stuff he uses for his beard, it's all Old Spice, okay? They completely changed who they're marketing to, and they were very, very successful at it, right? This commercial targets 2 different markets by itself. What 2 markets does this target? Yeah. Right. Obviously, this is a commercial made to target women. Okay. Who else is a target? The men in the relationship too, right? So they took one commercial and used it to grab 2 different markets. And they did it very, very well. They followed this up with 186 related videos, not necessarily commercials, but just videos they either put out on YouTube or actual commercials that they made. And they had an 11% sales growth in 12 months in 2010. Okay. So it was hugely successful. The lesson here is that a very clever ad plus smart use of social media can produce a fresh identity for a brand that most people associated at the time with their grandparents, okay? They didn't change their logo. They just changed the experience they were offering. All right, McDonald's. I don't have any more fun commercials for us to watch, but McDonald's. What has McDonald's done in the last 10 years to change their brand?
All their stores to
Yeah, they're remodeling all their stores. Got rid of the play places. Walmart went from, what was the movie that came out that like affected Walmart? Yeah, not Walmart, sorry, McDonald's. Super Size Me, right? Walmart, why do I keep saying Walmart? What the heck is wrong with me? McDonald's got viewed as very unhealthy, right? It went from all the commercials a long time ago where about how it's a family place. You can bring your family, your kids can play and eat, and it's great. And then Super Size Me came out, and they got a lot of bad publicity from that. So they started to change everything they were doing. Who did they start trying to compete with, kind of? Besides, not really in the fast food market. What did they add to their menu? Fancy coffee, right? They started trying to compete with Starbucks. Whether or not that worked. They added the chicken sandwiches. All right, they started to give more healthy options. Okay. The lesson here is that McDonald's paid attention to what the public was saying about them, and they responded to that to counteract the accusations that were happening. I don't think anyone would say that McDonald's food is super healthy, right? It's probably not a statement someone's going to make, but that perception that was going on when Super Size Me was popular is not really there anymore. I'm going to guess most of you probably don't know what was going on with Apple in 1997. Okay. What? You were negative 3 years old. In 1997, Apple was dangerously close to bankruptcy. They weren't doing so hot. In 1997, their stock price was $6. Don't you wish you'd been alive and had bought stock in 1997 in Apple? I wish I had bought stock in Apple in 1997. That would have been great. Now their stock price, well, when this particular article was written, it was $350, but it's higher than that now. Okay, they changed dramatically, and they started producing their product differently. They went from those bulky looking computers, right, to very slim design computers, very slim and sleek design phones. They changed the packaging on their product. When you open up a box and it's an Apple box, you know what to expect when you open it. The instructions are going to be pretty simple. They've turned their product into kind of an art form, okay? They did it very well. They built a creative product that's well made and enhanced by beautiful packaging. They found that was very important to their consumer. And they also did a lot of stuff in their stores to create a different experience for the buyer. Because you can go into the Apple store, to the Apple Genius people, and have them fix your phone, if they can. Last one is Taco Bell. This is what Taco Bell used to look like, in case you didn't know, right? The yellow Mexican-inspired, Spanish-inspired, influenced stores. Some of them still look like that. But they are remodeling themselves to look more like this, okay? They become a marketing phenomenon. How have they done that? What have they done in the last 10 years? Yes, they changed their slogan. They went from the commercials with the cute little dog to commercials trying to explain their new philosophy of live Moss, okay? They wanted to reach a different crowd of people. What else did they start doing to reach that different crowd? How late is Taco Bell open? Late. Before the pandemic hit, you could go get tacos at like 2 a.m., right? A lot of other places would shut down by then, or at least get really angry if you showed up at 2 a.m., okay? Like Jack in the Box. We got tacos there one time at like 1 in the morning. They were not very happy with us. We went to Taco Bell and got tacos, and they were just fine, okay? So they started to change how they looked, who they were marketing to. And they have a really interesting social media strategy. They're in like the Twitter wars with other companies, right? They fight other companies in the Twitter wars. There was a tweet some company had sent to them about their fire sauce being misleading because it wasn't made with actual fire. And they hit back pretty hard. I can't remember who it was, but they've used social media to enhance their brand. Okay. I don't think we really have time to talk about any of our discussion questions. You guys did a great job answering all the questions throughout the presentation today, though. So your homework for Friday. On Friday, we're going to get into our groups and work on the case study. Sam, do not do the case study before Friday. That's what we're going to do. So come prepared to do that. Make sure you've read the case study before class. It's very short.
Except Sam.
Except Sam. Sam, just read it like 5 minutes before. That is it. I will see you guys Friday. Don't tell him not to pay attention to me. Have a good day, David.
Well, if he doesn't pay attention, yeah, he won't know to do the case study.